Welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started and what are they doing to stay there? And yes, folks, we are in season 3 and I have another special guest as we're going to talk to Mike Sipple Jr. today. He is he's a dual CEO. He's the CEO of Centennial, which is a talent strategy and executive search firm, and also co-founder of the Talent Magnet Institute. Man, so excited to have you on the show. Mike, how you doing, man?
Bruce, it's great to be with you. I have heard so many episodes of this and ones you've been guest on, so it is an honor to be right here with you today.
I'm excited to talk to you, and I know you're jacked up today, and I'll tell you why. We are recording this a week before the Super Bowl. This is actually going to be played Super Bowl weekend. You are from the Ohio area, and I'm pretty sure you're a Bengals fan. How about those Bengals?
Oh, I was born into being a Bengals fan, and I'm a diehard. And I remember where I was, Super Bowl that was in February 1989. I was sitting on the floor of my grandparents' house watching it was a yellow carpet. Their TV had Reynolds wrap on it on the antennas. I remember sitting there and I remember us losing and sucking the wind out of the sails. So we are super excited here in Cincinnati, Ohio. A little bit of hoo day for the Bengals fans out there.
That is so cool how you remember where you were. Let me just tell you real quick. I remember where I was a couple of years ago when Joe Burrows was quarterbacking LSU in the Peach Bowl. And now, of course, I'm a big Oklahoma Sooner fan, and I watched him just torch the Oklahoma Sooners in that playoff game. He's really special. And so excited for the great Cincinnati Bengals nation. And I know you're sporting your Bengals shirt here. And so, hey, I'm excited to have you on the show. I'll tell you another reason why I'm excited for you is that I had another guest on the show that is a mutual friend of ours, and that is the great Jennifer McClure was on the show. And I remember her saying, hey, you ought to also have Mike Sipple Jr. on the show. She's pretty special, isn't she?
She's pretty special. She's a great dear friend. I had the pleasure of working with her as she went through a leadership transition herself and joined Centennial for a season and for a 6-7 year season. And Jennifer's one of my very dear friends. I learn every time I'm with or around or read what she's covering in her world. So yeah, Jennifer, we love you. Both Bruce and I do. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and represent a little Jennifer McClure leadership.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, we are going to talk leadership for sure. I want to just kind of kick everything off. I mentioned that you're the CEO of Centennial and also co-founder of Talent Magnet Institute. Talk a little bit about TMI and how do you serve your customers?
Yeah. So Talent Magnet Institute was birthed out of Centennial, which is an executive search firm that my family has been a part of for 46 years. Really of our clients saying in our board. So we had our board members of Centennial and several clients, actually 7 of them, encouraged us to take this big step in that, yes, organizations need to hire great people, which is what Centennial does. But at the end of the day, retention and development is everything. And Centennial has always taken a lens of like, we need to help our clients not just hire great people, but develop and retain and bring out what we call the greatest good in the humans that they employ. So Talent Magnet Institute was birthed. We launched a digital leadership platform. We wanted to build an inclusive and equitable digital leadership platform. So we actually have launched a free leadership course that any human in the world can sign up and take and get through their first leadership opportunity. We believe that leadership has, unfortunately, leadership development has been something that's not accessible to all. And Talent Magnet Institute was birthed to really focus on an early to mid-career leadership development platform that helps come alongside of individuals and organizations to support those who, quite frankly, make our businesses and organizations possible. So Talent Magnet Institute, that's how it came about. We launched it 4 years ago. About a year and a half ago, we launched our leadership development platform. Because in startup world, it takes a little while to get to MVP. And we're very excited to say we have several hundred individuals in their leadership development journey right now as we speak. People are experiencing the product real time.
Man, that's exciting. I will, I'll put a link in the show notes, and we're definitely going to talk more about that. I serve on the Texas SHRM State Council in Leadership Development. We are launching this week our leadership development program for the 32 SHRM chapter leaders in the great state of Texas. So when you start talking about development, man, you're talking about language. I love it because, and you probably feel the same way. You remember like when you were being developed, and you remember what that felt like and the people that were involved in that. And now it's a great opportunity for you to give that back. Hey, I want to ask you to just share the Mike Sipple Jr. story. Because I know we're going to talk about some of these things when it comes to leadership development, but tell it, like you mentioned, like where'd you grow up and how in the world, like you're in this family business, but how did all that transpire? Share a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So we all, Bruce, and as you just referenced, we're all a summation of those who have built into us, right? So I always say no one got to where they are today by themselves. All of us have a journey and a story. So, my story is born and raised into a wonderful family in Kentucky. And my parents, my dad's, he was the first employee of Centennial. Okay. So the husband and wife that started the firm launched that company. And my dad and I worked at Centennial prior to me being born. Right. So, as a part of me growing up, I never quite understood the privilege I stood in by having parents that were leading a company. I grew up loving baseball, loving basketball. As a 6'3" individual, I played basketball, played baseball, never played football, which sometimes is a surprise to others. But I actually wanted to be a landscape architect and own my own turf grass business. And in the midst of me going through school for just that, I was working at my family business to help make money for school. And to be honest, I, fell in love with my high school sweetheart. So my wife and I have been married since 2004. We started dating, I believe, in 1998. And her and I both worked at Centennial to put ourselves through school. So, and then I fell in love with what my parents did for a living. I fell in love with the employees and partners that they worked with. I fell in love with the work we did with our clients of solving problems and being there for individuals. And we're a very relational business. Our businesses are very much in the trenches with the clients we serve. The majority of our clients fall into family-owned, privately held, nonprofit and private equity-owned businesses, mostly in succession. So we have this firm that's known worldwide for succession planning, which we believe succession is not an event. Most people see succession as an event. And again, that's kind of what led us to this whole journey of launching Talent Magnet Institute, of let's get serious about talent development. I've had the privilege of having a father who surrounds himself with coaches, advisors, guides, mentors. So I too have been able to take advantage of that and have a lot of people build into me. So at the end of the day, I am a Christ follower who has an amazing wife that's his high school sweetheart, 3 awesome kids, a wonderful family, but every day get up to help others be successful, to give what I've been given back to others. And it's a real honor to be in this whole talent leadership space, coming out at it from a lens of true heart and care, because that's how people have come to me in my career and helped me grow and learn. So I loved how you prefaced the discussion around, we're all a summation of the parts. Leadership is a journey. No individual should have to lead it alone. And we believe that everyone who influences is a leader.
I love that. That's so fantastic. Hey, I want to dive into this one one piece, because I applaud you for just seeing the family business the way you see it, right? You see it as incredible servanthood, right? And I love that. But I want to just share just real quick. So I also have a family business. My parents own bowling centers, right? And so I grew up working at the bowling center, and one of the reasons why I left the bowling center after many years after I graduated college was because in bowling, people aren't bowling in Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. They're bowling at night and on the weekends. So that's when I worked. And I was like, man, I think I want a job where I'm not working nights and weekends. So I eventually came to Dallas. But I remember, and man, I admire my parents, the hard work. Like, I've seen it. I try to model that work ethic. However, many days I felt like quitting and just getting out of it, because you're working for your parents. It's a little bit different. Just curious, ever any moments where you had some challenges? You're like, oh man, this is really hard.
Yeah. Working in a family business is really no different than being in a partnership, a relationship, a marriage. It takes hard work, right? And family businesses, I do believe, are some of the most difficult, because so few of us know how to manage through conflict. So few of us know how to be transparent around challenges and opportunities that present. It's stressful. Again, I am so thankful for the kind of difficult circumstances that my dad grew up through in the business. So for example, in 1975, Centennial was created. In 1980, the founder, one of the two founders, the husband, died in a fatal accident. My dad was asked by his wife to take over and run the company as president and to help lead the company. He never knew he was a part of their succession plan. Right. And he was kind of thrust into the stress at a young 32 or so, to run a business as the youngest partner in that group. What does that teach you is that succession is hard. Family business, privately held it's hard leading through change. So, we naturally have become this succession focused company. If we better know how to do it pretty well. So we've taken a lot of steps to work with a family business institute out of Cincinnati called the Gehring Center for Family and Privately Held Business, to help us go through our own coaching. We've had a mentor and a coach that my dad and I hired almost 11 years ago that worked with us as we were growing and learning each other, taking a variety of assessments, understanding why when I said the sky's blue, he said, well, I think it's yellow, that's sunny out today. Like those natural misses, you've got to work really hard to do well. So yes, there have been moments where I have said, this is so complicated. I have two choices. I can either pack my bags and walk away, or I can share the difficulty and we can work through the hard stuff to manage through. And, now I'm 7 years into running the business as president. I just recently took over our firm as CEO. And it's been a lot of hard work. I'd say it's worth it. I've sat with family businesses that they don't even attend Thanksgivings with each other. They don't attend holidays. And that's difficult, right? And I've said, hey, that's not going to be us. And in fact, we're going to help others not, if they're there, we're going to help them get out of it. And in order to do that, we've got to learn how to be good doing it ourselves, and then how to equip others. So it's complicated. I do have two sisters, love them to death. They do sometimes say, I don't know how you do this. I love my parents dearly, and I learned so much from them. I was just recently, Bruce, I was sitting with my dad in a board meeting for our company, and I told him he was right. And he said, can everybody take note of that? Can somebody put put that in the board meeting minutes that Michael admits I'm right.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, because whenever I left and again, we have an incredible relationship, but whenever I left, I came to Dallas. I just remember the dinners were a little bit different. The food tasted a little bit different when we weren't talking business at the dinner table. But no, I love that. I love everything that you stand for. I love what you said. It's just like businesses. You have to just work through the challenges, and also love how you said thankful for the difficulties, because I've asked a lot of different leaders on this podcast, what are you thankful for? And, a number of reasons. I put the top 10 in my recently published book, grateful. And one of the things that comes up often is difficult experiences, because that helps us grow, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let me ask this. You mentioned surrounding yourself with great people. I always like to ask, were there some, mentors on your journey that have helped you get to where you are today? Share a couple of things that made them a great mentor.
Yeah, 100%. And I always tell people, to be frank, some of the people who I have believed have been my greatest mentors may actually say they didn't know they were my mentor.
Love
right?
it. Yeah.
But they're examples. So I intentionally, as a part of kind of long range life planning of how do I want to be remembered as a leader? How do I want my family's legacy, both for our employees and my own family, as well as the clients we work with? Like, what do I want to be known for? And I sought out individuals who I believed have led well across all categories of relationships, work, community, and life. And what I've learned is all of them would say there was a chapter that one of those four components wasn't going well, right? But they made adjustments. They made shifts to ensure their children knew them, even though they were an owner or CEO of a business. They made shifts to ensure they worked really hard on their partner, their relationships that they had, and that they did business the right way, which isn't always the easy way. So I've had some incredible mentors, individuals who have been chairman and CEO of companies, individuals, one of my greatest mentors, her name's Lynn Rule. She's been a coach, a friend of our family, of our business. She's on our faculty at Talent Magnet Institute. Lynn is a great example of, a leader who wasn't in leadership when she stepped in, right? So what I mean by that is Lynn was a stay-at-home mom whose daughter was an incredible gymnast. And one day she was approached that we want your daughter to move up to the next level of competition, which means she's going to be practicing not 2 to 3 hours a week, but 7 to 12 hours a week. She's going to be in the gym every single night, 7 days a week. And Lynn and her husband decided to buy a gym. No one's going to have influence on our daughter unless we're aware and a part of it. So Lynn's story, she wrote a book called 3 Impossible Promises, the inspiring true story of Olympic gold and how organizational health means everything. 3 Impossible Promises. Lynn ultimately did buy a gymnastics academy. 2-time Olympic coach Mary Lee Tracy started her coaching career and elevation inside of Cincinnati Gymnastics Academy. If you want a book about corporate culture that will shake you, that will create emotion, that'll tell a story around the toxicity that can exist and how bad leaders can nurture that, where good leaders can bring out the good that can happen, and a turnaround story of, and what really made this story famous is Mary Lee Tracy got mic'd up at the Olympics. And you heard competitors at that time kind of ridiculing, trying to motivate by fear and negativity, and Mary Lee Tracy using positive psychology and relationship building with the athletes that led to 2-time Olympic coach. Lynn's one of my, greatest mentors, the biggest heart of a leader you'll ever meet, and is just an encourager. And it's taken that type of encouragement to help me navigate what leading companies look like and how difficult it can be at times. And just that reminder, I say often that leadership is a journey and no one should have to walk it alone. And Lynn's been a great mentor to help me recognize that.
Wow. So share the name of the book again. Did you say it's 3 Impossible Promises?
Yes, 3 Impossible Promises, the inspiring true story of Olympic gold and how organizational culture means everything. And Bruce, I'll even go so far to say, if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I heard your episode on Bruce Waller's podcast, I would be honored to send, let's say, the first 3 people to reach out to me. I will mail you copies of this book. I know it is a transformative leadership tool, and that anyone who gets a copy will be inspired by it.
Wow. Okay. You heard that, folks, right here, because this is recorded and this is going to be played. The first 3 people that reach out to Mike. Hey, I love that. I'm going to pick myself up a copy, and I'm going to get the link in the show notes, so others that want to click on that, learn more. Hey, well, one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the podcast too, Mike, was because I've been talking a lot about this in presentations, trying to re-energize the leadership and HR community. And one of the things we're seeing out there right now, well, we all know the Great Resignation. And my question is like, well, what's going on there? Like, why is everyone quitting? And there are a couple of statistics that I've recently shared that over 4 million people quit their jobs in November of 2021. Then I go over to the SHRM website and I'm looking at, 4 out of 10 workers in the workplace right now are looking for a job. I think that number could be higher. And then you could look at some other numbers along the way. And so my first question is like, what is happening? Like, is everybody really quitting work? What are your thoughts on the Great Resignation, or is it a Great Resignation?
Yeah. So a couple things, Bruce. For a decade plus, we've been talking about multi-generational workforces and baby boomer retirement. And I think there's some other data here you need to add into the calculation. So one data point is student enrollment has been down for almost a decade inside of colleges and universities. We had 2.4 million women leave the workforce from February 2020 to February 2021. 3 primary reasons were stated in some of this research that Gallup and Economic Forum and others have done, that they were in industries that were hurt by COVID. They left for family and personal reasons, and women were experiencing burnout at a very high rate. From February 2020 to February 2021, there were also 1.8 less men in the workforce. Baby boomer retirement rates have went up, right? The market was high. So baby boomers who were, call it cuspers, ready to retire, decided, you know what, I'm going to take this now. I have the ability to take it now. So there was a lot of data already happening. I mean, even fertility rate has been going down, average family size, et cetera, for decades. So all of these things were already in the water, right? And then the February 2020 COVID hit, 2.4 million women left the workforce, set us back decades, which is something that we as a world should be addressing and focusing on. But I would also say that the industrial revolution way of working it's not been working, right? That, you look at some of the survey and data that Gallup recently came out around worry and stress and anger and sadness and depression, like mental health rates in our country, and I know the world, but speak to our country, have been increasing for, over a decade. But yet we're surprised that when something culminated and created this event called a pandemic, a global pandemic, 100-year pandemic, that all of these things hit at once. And everybody also recognized we all struggle in some way, right? So yes, there are resignations happening. I've been talking a lot about, but it's also a realization time that things aren't working, that things that we're struggling, that things that have been taking place haven't been working, and it's a realization that it's time to shift. It's time to make change. So yes, resignations, I kind of say it's almost a causation of the realization that's taking place with all of these data points. We shouldn't be surprised at some point it was going to strike, right? The match was going to be lit. The pandemic happened to do that and cause everybody to think, second guess, question, and shift to a new norm. So all of those things are happening. That what doesn't change is the companies that are winning through all of this are focusing on investing in those around them, making sure that we're working hard to build teams that people want to be a part of, that we're creating a culture, right? Some organizations have found out that we didn't have a culture that could retain people. So, I always say that we love to jump to the conclusion that it's a recruiting problem, when in fact, it's the exact opposite. We can't retain, if you could retain people, develop people, invest in people, build into people, create a culture where people want to stay, recruiting would be something that would be an asset to the business. And again, not be used as a weapon. So I think a lot of the data that sounds sexy is that everybody's resigning. And it's creating a talent void. Well, that's not the full picture. Yeah. We already had less people because of the reasons that we stated earlier. We do need to address the inequalities, the structures that we've said is work, is a structure that leaves people out, right? Is a structure that doesn't work for families. Yeah. It doesn't work for people who need some level of autonomy and flexibility. They needed it all along. The pandemic didn't just all of a sudden create all of it, but it made people make decisions that this isn't working for me and my family. So it is a time of realization. It's a time of new approach. It's a time of rethinking. It's not a matter of whether I want to work from home or work from the office. It's that I need flexibility and autonomy to manage my life, not just my work, right? Yeah. Again, if we focused on engagement and development, not just we can't hire enough people. No, engage your people, develop your people, take a proactive approach, recognize your people, invest in your people, build a culture of care, a culture where people want to be, and it may slow down kind of the symptom that's happening, call it resignation.
I love that. I had Carol Kibbers on the show in season 2. She's the VP of HR for Acme Brick, a wonderful, wonderful leader. And she said something similar to what you said. She's calling it the great reevaluation. And just like you said, it's like the pandemic, it really didn't start it. It just accelerated what's going on now. And I think people now are thinking, hey, is this the work I want to do? Is this the place I want to be? Am I surrounded by the right people? And just looking at a whole lot of different things. I love how you talked about engage and develop, because we're talking about, for the listeners that are listening right now, maybe they're HR leaders or leaders for their company, and they're trying to figure out, what can I do to make sure that I am, retaining top talent, bringing the right talent on. Engage and develop's got to be a piece. I'm curious, you're an expert in the talent strategy and executive search. What are you hearing from some of the people that are out there looking? Like, why have they mentioned that they've left, or what are they looking for their next? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is people are evaluating, reevaluating what fits their life now, and not feeling so prisoner to the environment they're in, right? They have to make decisions that best support who they want to be, where they want to be, et cetera. The other dynamic, which is really kind of a sad conversation, the fact that it has to be had all the time. We live in an environment where most companies and leaders don't care, right? We say talent is our greatest asset, but we never act like it. And we've made leadership and we've made approach to leading others have to be a system and a piece of software versus a human interaction and making it personal, right? So, show me an environment where somebody takes leadership personal, that they take their employees as an honor, as a privilege, that I get to have this person here for this season. And I want to help them bring out their greatest good. I want to care for them. I want to develop them. I want to help them thrive. And I'll show you an environment that has less recruiting issues because they're retaining and engaging their people in highly effective ways. So I think the measure of really understanding the humans that are on your team, viewing it as an honor, taking a different approach, spin the conversation around, stop making it so negative. You still have employees that work with you and work around you. Treat them personal, build a personal approach to leadership. It's sad that there's this realization that we need to make leadership personal, that it's one-to-one, that my situation in life and you listening and Bruce, yours, they're all different. Right? So stop trying to create one approach and start really getting personal and understanding and listening and engaging in unique ways. And then all of a sudden, as we like to say, then you become a talent magnet, right? Then you become an organization and a leader that people, even if they move on, they're still going to look back and go, wow, that was the greatest leader I've ever worked with, right? And he or she brought out the greatest in me. They helped me develop who I am today. That's the kind of leaders we should all be thriving and striving to become. And it should be no surprise that we've allowed the other behaviors to go on way too long. And I think that's part of the resignation, that people have realized, I don't want to be in this environment anymore. I want to find a place that values me for me, that doesn't make me hide the situations that I work with and through in life, and that can help support me while I help support them. That's the kind of environment people want to live and work in.
I love that. So if you're listening to the show right now, I want you to write this down. Mike just said, become a talent magnet. I love that. Hey, let me ask you this. I just want to get your thoughts around this. And I love everything you're sharing. I love the additional data that you brought in. I love that. And it really reinforces what's going on here. But one of the things that I think about whenever you're talking about this approach, and then Carol talked about the great reevaluation, and I think a lot of it too is this. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me if I'm off base here, but I think people have run out of energy. They're tired, right? And one of the ways that I talk about how to get re-energized is we got to have some things to look forward to, right? And whenever I will ask, let's talk about that. Do you have a personal growth plan? No hands ever go up, very rarely, right? And so I want to ask you this, like, how important do you think people are de-energized, need to be re-energized? Number one. And number two, I'm curious, do you have a personal growth plan? Is that part of your leadership development? Or do you think that would play, like for our listeners, would that help them play into that role of getting re-energized? Your thoughts?
100%. I mean, people need and are looking for ways and approaches to be re-energized. I do have a personal growth plan. Why? Because I've had others who have encouraged me to do so. It's like I had a life plan 25 years prior to most people even thinking about it, because I had someone around me who was all about life planning, right? It was the way to think through. So yes, we all, and here's the part, Bruce, that I struggle with the most. There are organizations, there are managers, supervisors, bosses, leaders, however you want to describe it, that don't see that as part of their responsibility for the people they employ. And isn't that a shame, right? So we all want to talk about the sexy words, the succession and talent management, and we need to hire better people, and help your people identify their personal goals, right? That why do they work? What does work support? What do they want out of their life? Stop compartmentalizing and say, none of that matters here. That's all on them, right? No, 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 no. As leaders, we should be helping the people around us, even if it's through a mentoring relationship, even if it's through a parent to child or a friend and support. We should be helping people around us think about their personal goals and the importance of reaching them and accomplishing them. And what are your greatest dreams? And what are your aspirations? And why do you work? Oh, you work for these reasons that are very personal to you. You know what? Let me help you achieve those goals. And you can do that by being here, right? So it's shocking to me when I talk about and advocate for, I always tell people, your employees don't have to tell you things personal, but it's okay to say, the more I understand you and your goals and your objectives, the more I can help you be successful. And talk about an engagement strategy. Talk about a talent magnet approach to leadership. Talk about a healthy, holistic way. People want to be valued, heard, and understood. The more you do that, the more they thrive, the more they help you be successful. So all of us need to have a personal growth plan. All of us need to detach from the work and focus on that, and then connect it to the work to say, now I'm energized to do what I've been hired to do, because it helps me accomplish these things. I always tell people, I don't understand why this is such a profound thought, but it is. And people don't get it. There's been a different approach, and I hope we all bring this into the new world.
I think a lot of it too, maybe just because we're all busy, right? Everybody's got, some have young kids, some have aging parents that they're taking care of, some are relocating, which is what I'm doing for people. So there's a lot of different things, but the thing about it is a lot of people don't realize the value that when you put together something like a personal growth plan. And I was sharing with the group just last week, I said, it doesn't have to be, hey, we're going to spend 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, every single day. We're going to follow these steps. No, we don't have time for that. It can be as easy as saying, like, I'm just going to plug you have a platform, leadership development platform. It could be as simple as, this year, I'm going to sign up for that and develop. That's going to be my personal growth plan. Or, hey, I'm going to listen to 2 podcasts a week, or whatever the case may be. And so I appreciate you sharing all that, because I think at the end of the day, it's about being intentional. If we can develop our people, or as individuals, we can go and find a way to continue to grow and engage. We are going to add more value to people, and we are also going to value others that need that, and continue to do that. I want to ask you a quick question here before we shift, because this is a fascinating conversation. But we talked about the Great Resignation, right? But yeah, you posted, and I haven't talked to you about this yet, but you posted on social media just recently. And we haven't really talked about your podcast, but you posted, I quit. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy here is talking about reevaluate. What did you quit? Talk about that.
Yeah. So, and it's a great example, right, of the realization of the reevaluation. So yes, we've had a podcast, the Talent Magnet Leadership Podcast, since May of 2018 is when our first episode went out. We've reached in the episode, I say 70 countries. I was corrected afterwards. It's actually 95. Our listenership continues to go up. Our guests, we've had 186 episodes.
Wow.
But what did I quit? I quit doing live podcasts, whether it's just the season but the reason why is I have some other priorities that have stepped ahead of the hard work that it takes to do a weekly podcast.
Yeah.
And I never knew it until I walked in those shoes. So yes, we quit recording new episodes. Our podcast will still live on. It's still out there. There's still amazing leadership content, stories, examples, journeys that people have shared. That doesn't go away. But the time needs to be adjusted and sent someplace else for right now for this new season. So we shared that. It's about 17 minutes long. There's a lot in there about my own experience of prioritizing what is important and making the really tough decisions to say no to some things in order to open up space to say yes to others. So that's what we just recently did. So yeah, I'm a part of it too. I'm making reevaluations. I'm having a realization that I can't do it all, and I need to create space to be able to accomplish the things that are important to us.
Man, I'm glad you shared that. And by the way, I'll put that show in the show note, or I'll put the link in the show notes, because I think a lot of people want to hear that story. But it reminded me of a book I read called The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanger. And he was talking about what you say yes to, you're saying no to something else, right? But as we're talking about this personal growth plan, what I want to just touch on here for the listeners is that, hey, it may involve you quitting something, and that is okay, right? Like if I say, hey, I'm going to grow, I'm going to start taking piano lessons, or I'm going to start learning to speak at Toastmasters, it's okay to say no to something else, right? The key is make sure that you're in alignment with your values. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, and I'll tell everyone, it wasn't easy. In fact, this was a conversation that came up over 12 months ago. Wow. It took me a while to see what others saw, and then to come to a realization, an agreement that, you know what, it might be time. Now, I will share with you, Bruce, last year, some of our episodes that we recorded took me over 18 months to even get scheduled. Like, we had powerful discussions with authors and other podcasters and amazing leaders who said yes to the invitations. So I was all in last year. It was so exciting. But we have this thing at the Talent Magnet Institute called our leadership journeys, called our membership, called our infrastructure of supporting hundreds and hundreds of leaders around the world. In order to do that well, I need more space.
Love it.
Right. And, so to say, wow, we've got that going, and there's this thing, there's only so much time. And, my kids are 14, 12, and 11. And there's a lot that they're doing too. So I want to be present there while supporting two organizations. And I recently just said yes to coach my son's fourth grade basketball team.
Yes.
My team's comment to that, when I was like, guys, I thought I was supposed to say no to everything. They're like, no, you need to say no to the right things. And so you can say yes to the right things.
Love that.
Right. And so that was a great reminder by my own team, people that are around me, they're leaders influencing me too. Right. And so, yeah, it's been a powerful experience. It's not the first time I've had to say no to some really tough things that I wanted to do. And every time I do it, I learn something about myself. I learned something about leadership, and I learned something about others.
That's so fantastic. I coach all of my children in sports, and like, those are the most fulfilling times of my life. So, man, kudos to you. I love that. I told you the time was going to just fly by. You've shared some incredible things on the podcast, but I want to ask you this before I shift over to it's time to accelerate. I want to ask you if you have ever been given any advice, whether it might be from your father, who has been a big leader, a big mentor for you, and leading the family organization. And now here you are, CEO. It may be from a friend or a business colleague, or from your children. Any advice that you received, it was just so good, you just find yourself sharing it with others?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as the circle of concern versus the circle of influence and control, right? So there are things that you can be concerned about, and there are things that you can control. There's a lot you can't control. So should you be concerned, right? This whole dynamic of what is in my ability to influence and control, and what is not. And the things that I can't, that I'm concerned with, that I can't influence or can't control, we've got to release ourselves from a lot of that we, so often we focus on the things that concern us, but we have no control or influence over. So that's something my dad taught me, that there's going to be a lot go on in life, and you have to pick your battles. You only have so much energy, time, emotion, and capacity. So what can you control and influence? And those are the things. You can still be concerned about things, but you need to be able to know to set those aside, that they're not in your control and influence. So there's only so much you can do. That whole component's been a great journey for me. Also, that people matter. People really matter. And I would like to say that just recently, my team for Centennial made it their number one core value of our firm is that people matter. And it's something that I don't take lightly. And I'm honored to say that my team feels that way too. And we all should operate as people really matter.
I love that. People matter. Write that down, folks. People matter. I just, it's phenomenal. We all know it, but we all need to hear it. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And man, there's just so much value you've shared here today. I appreciate that. Hey, let's shift over to what I call it's time to accelerate. You ask you some fun questions as we kind of conclude the podcast. First thing I always like to ask, especially a CEO who is busy. Would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast? I'm curious.
I'd rather listen to a podcast, so I can hear the inflections and real life stories of others.
I love that. Any podcasts that you listen to that you enjoy, or any favorites? I'm curious.
Yeah, so there's a few of them. So Masters of Scale with Reid Hoffman is one of my favorites.
Okay.
Certainly this podcast is on my weekly list. The HR Social Hour. I love the HR Social Hour that John Thurman and Wendy Daly do. I learned so much about community and friendships.
Yeah.
Also Punk Rock HR. Lori is an amazing friend and mentor. And I just love the authenticity that she brings. I could go on and on.
Oh.
Lead to Win, Emotionally Healthy Leadership, Redefining HR. I'd say grab a few that you really like, and then listen to what is shared on those podcasts that other episodes you like share, and then go listen and check it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of those podcasts that you mentioned. I've been a guest on HR Social Hour. John and Wendy are fantastic. I love both of them. Hey, let me ask you this. We talked about energizing earlier. I always like to ask what energizes you, but I want to switch it up just a little bit. We're here. It's Super Bowl weekend. Like, what are you energized about with the Bengals and the Super Bowl? I mean, you're going to get together with your team or your family. What's that Super Bowl weekend going to be like for Mike Sipple Jr.?
Yeah, so it's all being planned real time. I have a friend who called right at the victory and said, Michael, her husband's being deployed overseas. He's going to be gone for a couple months, an active duty. And she was like, he's going to get deployed right before the Super Bowl. So I need to be with you guys. I'm coming down. So she's traveling into town with her and her kids. And yeah, I mean, we're just going to be soaking up all the energy here in Cincinnati that the Bengals victory. It's amazing what winning can do for a city and a community and energy. It really does pay to be a winning team, and we can learn a lot about that.
Love it, man. I love it. I'm going to be rooting for you guys. Yeah, I've had Nicole Roberts has been on the podcast. Of course, she's Bengals. Steve Brown, he's got his new sign out there, Who Day. I mean, I just love, I can just feel the energy going on in the great state of Ohio. So I'm excited for you. Hey, I want to ask you this last question. This is actually, Mike, it's my favorite question I like to ask my guests. And the question is, Mike Sipple Jr., 10 years older, is around the corner right now, and he's knocking at your door, and you're going to go answer that door. What's he going to tell you?
I would say believe in yourself. There's big things to do. You've been given abilities and gifts, and stop running from them, run towards them. Believe in yourself. It's also, Bruce, what I would say, if I say 10 years ago, what would I tell myself starting today? I would say the same thing. We all need to believe in ourselves, and we all have greatness that lies within us. We've been put on this earth for big reasons, and sometimes those big reasons can seem small, but it's where you are placed to make impact. So, I always think we need to believe in ourselves, and I think I'll be encouraging myself 10 years from now to believe in myself.
Yeah.
And to keep going and to keep leading boldly and making tough decisions. And I would encourage those listening to do the same, believe in yourself.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I will tell you, I've had many high performers on the podcast share that similar message. And the theme to me is that we all need to hear it all the time. All the time. And so, man, Mike, I am so grateful for you coming on to the show and just sharing your wisdom and your perspective. I know the listeners have got a lot out of this. I'm going to put some of the things, some of the links in the show notes so they can access to that. If someone wanted to connect with you, learn more about something you had to share today, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so just look up Mike Sipple Jr. on any social platform and message me, right? I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear a nugget that you took away from this discussion with Bruce and I. You always can go to LinkedIn and look up our company profiles, talentmagnet.com, centennialinc.com, and just reach out to me, right? You can type my name in Google and get to me pretty quickly. So look forward to connecting with you. Invite everyone to take the journey. Join one of our free leadership trainings, completely free to you and your team. So I invite you to enjoy that.
Absolutely. Make that part of your growth plan, man. I'm grateful to you for coming on the show and grateful for our partnership. And mostly I'm grateful for our friendship, and hey, best wishes to you and your incredible organization. And of course, the Bengals, my friend.
All right. Hoo day.
Hoo day. Hey, I'll talk to you later.